Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Good News. I'm sitting down with Troy over at the Holston Baptist Association, and he's here to share all the good that they are doing and this amazing event that's going to be going on here in the next couple weeks as well. So, Troy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role over at the Holston Baptist Association?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I am originally from Logan County, Kentucky. Grew up as a farm boy there. Blessed to be raised by parents who took us to church and raised us to know Jesus, and not only went to church, but brought church home with us. And I grew up in the Southern Kentucky, Northern Middle Tennessee area, and met my wife in the first church that I pastored. And since then, she and I have been blessed with 8 children. So there is never a dull moment in our household.
Wow, 8 kids.
Yes, 6 girls, 2 boys.
Oh man, that's impressive. I don't think I could handle that many kids. I have 3 of my own, and that's a lot already. So 8 kids. Driving a school bus now?
Well, I tell you what, you realize that once you get past, once you get past 6 kids, most vehicles won't hold you. So we do have a 15-passenger size van. And we've had to explain to people, no, this is not the church van. This is our van. And so that's simply a necessity. But I give the credit for being able to do those things, first of all, to the Lord, and secondly, to my wife, because she has to carry the vast majority of the load from day to day.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing, though. That's impressive. So at the Holston Baptist Association, you've stepped into your role there within the past year, correct?
Yes, I started November of last year as the associational mission strategist. And basically what I do is serve in a connecting role. We connect churches to resources. We connect churches to each other. We connect churches to mission opportunities, as well as just provide some very practical support for them. Some of the things that we're really seeking to do would include church revitalization. In any given Baptist association, there are easily 80 to 90% of the churches that are in need of some level of revitalization to getting back to the level of health that they once knew. And in the cases where there are churches that won't be able to return to that level of health, we're seeking to help them in replant opportunities. We have one that's currently going on in this association that was launched before I got here. And so seeing those old properties, those old ministry sites rejuvenated under a new name, under a new vision. And in addition to that, looking for just brand new church planting opportunities right here in Johnson City alone. When we start looking at diversity, just to give you an example, we have at least 750 people from India who live in Johnson City. And you wouldn't know that if you just went to the local grocery store or went on your normal routine. But when you begin to look at the demographics that tell us what's going on here, there is a growing level of diversity in the Tri-Cities area. Part of that is fueled by the reality that in recent months, Johnson City, as you may know, was the number 5 real estate market in the country.
Wow.
And it amazes people to know, I think recently it may have slid to number 9, but to realize, I believe that study said year over year, Johnson City is typically number 43 on the list.
Wow.
So to realize how much more attractive this area has become in a culture that, partly due to COVID, has made people's work far more mobile because they can work from home. Yeah. And so they can move from somewhere up north where the cost of living was much higher. They can move to the south where they work from home, where they don't pay as high a property tax, where they are about an equal distance from the Northeast or from Florida, and have the beautiful scenery to boot. So that is bringing more and more people to the Tri-Cities for such a time as this. So here at Holston Baptist Association, we're trying to figure out what can we do to be ready to receive them. We have for all of our existence as the Southern Baptist Convention, that's who we represent, we have always been about missions. And in recent decades, we realized that just as we're continuing to pray that God will call people to the ends of the earth, we also realize that the ends of the earth are coming to our front door. And so we've got to figure out what do we need to do to be ready to not just to find them, but to meet them, to greet them, to love them, and ultimately to share the good news of Jesus Christ with them.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I love that though. That you see the need that is coming to our area, that is already here, but also, like, if more and more people are coming, and then we got to figure out what we're going to do. We got to make
Absolutely.
sure that we're ready as Christians, as followers of Christ, to be like, hey, we're going to step up. We're going to meet you where you're at, and we're going to bring Jesus to you. So that's amazing. And I love church revitalization. I think that's huge in our area, and especially in the Bible Belt. There's a lot of churches that are, that are in need of revitalization. So I love having you having a passion for that. That's amazing. And now with your role there, how did you get into that role? Because that's not like a normal, normal role necessarily for someone just to step into. How did I heard you were a pastor beforehand.
Right.
How did you step into this?
Well, it began when I was serving as a pastor in North Carolina. I had an opportunity to become a bivocational, what then they were calling director of missions. And in the Baptist world, some are called director of missions, some are called associational mission strategist. Mm-hmm. Others have a variety of other names. It's all the same role.
Okay.
But I began serving bivocationally there while I was pastoring the last church that I pastored. And it was something that I had been involved in most all of my life. My parents were involved in the local Baptist association. And first of my memory was the Robertson County Baptist Association over in Middle Tennessee. But before that, they had been involved in the association there for Todd and Logan County, Kentucky's, or counties in Kentucky, excuse me. And so it was something that I was involved in all of my growing up years. And when I became a pastor, that was something that I wanted to be a part of. And we are grateful that we have many churches that choose to participate in the association, but unfortunately we have some who don't. I was blessed to grow up in a church that participated and under parents who participated. And so when I got into ministry, I had served in a variety of roles in numerous associations. And so when that opportunity came open, that was something that I began to look at. I had fellow pastors that said, hey, you really ought to consider doing this. And so in the providence of God, he put the pieces together and I began serving there. And it was a position that always required a second stream of income. We call that bivocational, co-vocational, whatever you want to call it. And I was forced to a transition because I was working at that point part-time at a local Christian academy. Really loved that ministry, but the school was seeing declining enrollment, and quite simply, they couldn't afford to keep me on staff. And so at that point, we had 7 children, and with 7 children, you've got to have steady streams of income. And so we began to pursue and to ask the Lord, where do you want us? Is it going to be another opportunity right here in North Carolina, or are you desiring to move us somewhere else? So we began to seek what the Lord had. And one of the opportunities that popped up on the radar was Holston Baptist Association right here in Johnson City. And so I had the opportunity to submit a resume and just wait and see what the Lord's will was. And I was blessed to be the one he desired to be in this position. And so the rest is history from there. But as you say, there are far fewer associational leadership roles than there are pastoral roles. There are some pastors who wouldn't for a moment want to be in this role. There are others that will transition, just as I did. I was a pastor for almost 19 years. And some of those people will come to a transition point where the Lord calls them into a different stream of ministry. And so there are certain aspects I still get to do. I get to preach in a variety of churches in our association. So you still get that opportunity, but you don't get the same opportunity to be intimately connected to a single body of believers in the same way you do when you're a pastor. And so that's how the Lord directed steps in my life to take me somewhere, by the way, that I never had any dreams of going. I never, when I went to seminary, I wasn't thinking, hey, I'm going to grow up and be an associational director one day. But that just reminds us that God has plans that we know not of, plans that he didn't ask us about first, because he is sovereign. He's the potter, we're the clay. And so he has chosen to shape me into an associational vessel, if you will.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And now, what is your favorite thing right now with your new role here? So, if you've been in, since November, how, what's like the highlight? What gets you out of bed? Like, hey, I love doing this.
Yeah, there's a lot of that I've already referred to. It's a combination of looking at what we can do that we're not yet doing. And of course, we're blessed here to be in a growing region. There are some regions that are declining and makes a responsibility like mine a lot more difficult. Here, as we sit back and watch for a few moments, we realize we can't just sit back and watch, because God is continuing to bring a wide variety of people, a wide variety of opportunities to us. So I love to not only see what's out there that has great kingdom potential, but to also work with the people that we already have, work with the churches that are already a part of our association, to see what we can do to help them to be healthier, to help them to get on mission. It's the very reason why we're doing the missions conference that we have coming up on September 19th, because when we talk about revitalization, we realize that revitalization has a lot to do with repentance. Churches have fallen into sinful patterns, and often one of the key sinful patterns is churches cease to do anything that's of much eternal significance. So I enjoy being able to reach out and help those churches to help set the table with opportunities. A lot of small churches don't have the resources, don't have the connections to know how to. They might say, well, we'd love to do a mission trip, but we can't afford to do a $2,000 a person mission trip. We don't really know where to start. So one of the opportunities that we have is to provide that opportunity and say, we can give you this opportunity maybe for half the price because of connections that we have developed. And one of the things that we're careful to do, we're not trying to duplicate the local church. The association is not a church. It is the voluntary cooperation of multiple churches. So we don't try to go out there and be a parachurch competitor, if you will. We're here to grease the wheels. We're here to throw fuel on the fire. We're here to make greater opportunities and help you be better at fulfilling your purpose at a church. And those are some of the things that keep me looking forward and motivated about what are we going to do for the kingdom? What are we doing as local churches that on Judgment Day, when we stand before Jesus, what are the things that won't end up in the fire with the hay, wood, and stubble? And unfortunately, as churches become less healthy, they tend to stack more straw. They tend to get into things that are more about nostalgia, more about reflecting back on the good old days. And as nice as that may be, it doesn't lead anybody to Christ. It doesn't disciple anybody. And so we're looking for, okay, what is straw? It's the remainder of yesterday's harvest. We're looking for today's harvest. We're looking for tomorrow's harvest. And that gets you out of bed in the morning. That gets you motivated to realize that we're gonna win men, women, boys, and girls to Christ. Maybe in ways that we never imagined, but it won't happen if we don't, as Jesus said in Luke 9:62, put our hands to the plow and don't look back.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. And now you hinted that there is a missions conference coming up here in, you said September, was it 15th?
September the 19th.
19th. Okay, September 19th.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that. What exactly is this conference for? Who is it really geared to have there? And just some more information on it.
Sure. This is going to be September the 19th at Heritage Baptist Church, which is over at 1512 John Exum Parkway, right across from Science Hill High School. And it's going to last from 3 to 8. And this is on a Sunday. And so we have designed it so that if you have a Sunday evening service or a Sunday evening Bible study and you want to bring that over and join us, you can absolutely do that. If that's not a possibility for you, since it starts at 3 o'clock, you can come and absorb a lot of good stuff and then go on to your evening service. In fact, since it goes to 8, if you have an early evening service, you can go to your service and come back and still catch the tail end of it if you want to. So we designed it to be very flexible, whether you can take in all of it, whether you can only take in parts of it. We've even included dinner at 6:45. We've just asked people to RSVP and let us know that they're coming. And of course, we designed this as what we hope will motivate our churches in the Holston Association. However, we've already had one group right off the top of my head that's outside of our association that contacted me and said, "Hey, can we come?" And the answer is absolutely. Whether you call yourself a Baptist or not, it doesn't ultimately matter. If you have a hunger for kingdom work, we encourage you to come and join us. In fact, the mission fair part of it has over 30 exhibitors that are going to be there. Some of those are specifically Southern Baptist groups, others are not. We've got a variety of ministries that some are right here in Johnson City, others are Appalachian regional ministries. We've got, I think, at least 4 different ministries that minister to different parts of Appalachia. We've got, if you think about international missions, just to give you an example of some of the countries represented, ministry to Nepal, Japan, the Philippines, Spain, Thailand, Romania, Canada, as well as our own Tennessee Baptist Mission Board's partnership missions representative. And right now we have partnerships with a number of places, both inside and outside the U.S. Germany would be one of those. Denver, Colorado would be one of those. We have an associational mission strategist, a guy who does the same thing I do, from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, who is representing what, as you would automatically know, is a very different part of the world. This is an association that has about 17 churches and 3 church plants, I believe you told me. Most of them are under 100. Many of them are under 50. This is in an area where there are very few evangelical churches, where there is quite a bit of diversity, including about a half a dozen Native American tribes. It's an area that is so large. He said if we overlaid it to a different region of the country, he said if you started overlaying at Washington, D.C., it would reach all the way up to New York City and cut across to Buffalo. It's just hard for us to imagine being in a region so large that is known for a few things that are a little different. It's known for being cold. It's known for for its cheese production. There are more dairy cows than there are people in parts of Wisconsin, and there's a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And so they do a lot of brats, and so I've encouraged him to bring us a cheese wheel. He probably isn't going to do that, but the reason why we're doing that is to hopefully create an association to association partnership. And so we would be able to see our churches pair up with some of theirs, where our churches, just to be completely honest, are blessed with more resources, more people. And believe it or not, you can even fly out of the Tri-Cities airport, and it's not that expensive to fly to Milwaukee and travel a short distance from there and just begin tapping into an area that, as I said, not only is representative of many Native Americans. There's a rich French history there. There's so much there that makes it, as he said, you could send interns up here and their experience would be in some ways more like going to a foreign country than what they're familiar with.
Wow.
And so, and realizing that, this is the kind of thing that would produce a $500 mission trip. You can't do many missions for $500 if you're going very far. Mm-hmm. And so again, this is an example of one of the things we're trying to do is to provide an opportunity for our churches and say, this really is a turnkey opportunity. If you will get on board, we can get you plugged in. And from there, who knows what doors the Lord's going to open up and take you down avenues that you never dreamed. And so the reason why we're doing this is for the conference part of it. We have about an hour of mission fair, and we have about 2 hours and 40 minutes of conference where people are going to hear presentations. We're going to have a time of evening worship, and then we'll go back at dinner time and have about another hour and 15 minutes of mission fair. So if you come at the beginning or if you come at the end, you're going to get the opportunity to meet a lot of different ministries. As I said, some of those are a very short drive from here. So if you're a church that says, we need to get outside of the walls. I had a pastor say to me recently, we've got to do something to get our people outside of the walls of this building. And we realize that the church is not brick and mortar. It's not wood. That's just a building. Under the new covenant, we understand that we are the temple of the Holy Spirit who resides in us. So he goes with us wherever the church goes. And so there's a sense in which the New Testament church is a portable. Now, I grew up at a small single A school in Robertson County, Tennessee. And for years, our band room was a portable. I hated portables, but in God's economy, a portable is a wonderful thing.
Yep.
Because it's not stuck on a street corner. It's not stuck in a neighborhood. We can take it wherever God's people are obedient enough to go. And so what we're wanting to do is for people to see, hey, here's what you can do right here in Johnson City. Here's what you can do in the Appalachian region. Here's what you can do in other parts of the country. Here's ministries that you can connect with in other parts of the world. And the neat part is in all of these, you can actually go and not just partner. We can partner in prayer. We can partner financially, but we're especially encouraging people to put hands and feet to that partnership and realize you can go to Southeast Asia and partner with people on the mission field. You can partner with southern Spain. As soon as the border opens up, you can partner with Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And so there's numerous opportunities that people won't know they're there if somebody doesn't put it in front of them. Again, one of the things we seek to do is to set the table and put it right here. Now, we can't make anybody eat. We can't make them take advantage of that, but they're so much more likely to feast on these things if we put it right in front of them. And we bring these people right here to Johnson City to be able to meet them, to be able to hear, where we have a representative from Wycliffe Bible Translators who's going to start off our conference time and talk about serving in Papua New Guinea. a lot of us would struggle to find Papua New Guinea on the map. And yet to hear the history of what God has done in such a primitive culture, to see thousands of people come to Christ, and to realize that's a ministry that's more specific than any Christian denomination.
Mm-hmm.
They're going and translating the scriptures into languages that have never seen the Bible in their language, to realize that there are languages that have never had their own language even written down. Wow. And so realizing that there is work going on for the kingdom, work going on in the mission field that is more specific, is more demanding than you and I would realize if we just kind of sat in our pew here in the Bible Belt. And so we're wanting to be a part of getting people's eyes open. My first mission trip, I was 13 years old. I was too young and too immature to be going, but the Lord allowed me to go.
Yeah.
I had grown up on a farm on the state line between Kentucky and Tennessee. And so any given day I could go to two states without almost any effort. But I'd never been outside of those two states. And so we headed to Lodge Grass, Montana, to the Crow Indian Reservation. And I noticed as soon as we crossed the Mississippi River and got into Missouri, all of a sudden these people are offering me a pop. And it's like, what in the world? What kind of places? Don't they know that's Coke? And that's just one silly example of you keep traveling further and further, and you realize, man, not only is the world different from where you grew up, the country is different from where you grew up. And to be able to go to a Native American reservation and to see a really an isolated culture that lives in its own world with its own challenges, and yet still has the same need that everybody else has, and that's the need to know Jesus. Yeah. And at 13 years old, God began. I had been a Christian less than a year at that point, and God began transforming my worldview to help me realize that not everybody's a white middle class farm boy like you. There's people of a lot of different colors, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different experiences, and yet they all need the same gospel. They all need to know Jesus as Savior and Lord. And so, again, that's one of the things that we're doing, is to help people see you've got more opportunities than you could ever imagine to get on board with what God is doing. Now, some people would push back and say, well, our real ministry is right here where God planted us. Well, I will automatically agree. Your primary ministry is right where God has planted you. But for all the people who have told me, often they will say that, and thankfully I've never heard that here, at least not yet. People will often say that as an excuse for why they don't want to go anywhere else and do missions. Yeah. And I will say, we're only talking about 1 or 2 weeks out of the year. What are you doing here with those other 50 or 51 weeks? And sadly, sometimes the answer is thinking of reasons why they're not doing anything here either. Yeah. And so, yes, your primary ministry is right where God has planted you. But the thing I've come to realize is that sometimes God takes you hundreds or thousands of miles down the road or across the ocean to learn more about what you're going to do the other 50, 51 weeks of the year right here. It helps you to better understand what the Great Commission looks like. It helps you understand what it means to have a passion for the gospel. And as I said earlier, we've got so many international cultures coming here. It's a great help to us to go other places and to see that firsthand, and then to come back home and say, we've got a better idea now of what we need to be doing where God's planted us. So we would certainly encourage anybody who wants to come join us for the Holston Baptist Association Missions Conference and Fair. Come and be with us. Again, starts at 3:00 on September 19th at Heritage Baptist Church. If you would like to come for dinner, The senior adult group there at Heritage is going to be cooking for us. We just need an RSVP for numbers. You can call our office here at 423-929-1196. That's the quickest way to get on the list. And we'll make sure that we have enough for everybody. If people are a little concerned about social distancing, that church seats over 400. So there's plenty of room to spread out. So we're not requiring masks, but if you want to wear a mask, we certainly encourage you to do that. And we're just super excited about how God may use this. I've said in more than one piece that I have produced for this that God may call someone to the mission field. Mm-hmm. You hear the stories of people who became career missionaries. They will always say, I was at such and such place and I heard this person speak, and God began to deal with my heart about how he wanted me to go and serve on the mission field. Who knows?
Yeah,
God can do that right here in Johnson City and the Tri-Cities, just like he's done it everywhere else.
Yeah. Definitely. No, I love that. And we'll link to all this information. We'll have it on this. We'll put it on our event page. So when this airs, that will already be on our events page as well on the website. So that, if you don't remember the phone number that he said, because you're driving, that it's going to be on our events page. Also, all the information will be on there. So just come over to wcqr.org, scroll down to our events page, and you can see the event and go ahead and RSVP for this mission conference. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your heart and your heart for missions and for our local church as well. So I just really appreciate you and everything that you're doing and what I know that God's going to do through you and your role there at the Holston Baptist Association. So I just really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christian. It's been my honor and privilege.